Welcome to the Israel Guys, where we believe that in a world of anti-Israel propaganda and Jew hatred, you should always be connected to the land and people of Israel. Happy to be with you again today, guys. Make sure you're subscribed and following the channel. Never want to miss out. Drop a comment if this is your first time watching or listening. Happy to have you here with Rabbis Jeremy Gimpel, Ari Abramowitz, Judean rabbis, and Christian Zionists, Joshua Waller, and myself. So, a lot happening this week. Trump obviously still saying that something's going to happen in Iran, and all eyes are still watching there, including airlines that, kind of pausing flights, people missing flights, not real sure what's going to happen here. But before we dive into that, there's something that has not happened in 25 years, and we had a team of people that were a personal witness to this. And that is morning prayers were held at Joseph's tomb, the tomb where the bones of Joseph are buried, which, by the way, we'll talk about more later because this is part of the Torah portion, right? And very connected to the last hostage that was brought out of Gaza. But I'll save that for Jeremy to get into a little bit later in the show. But one would think that the bones of Joseph being buried is a site that should be protected, should be accessible by the Jewish people, probably by, Christians should care about this as well, right? But guess what? The tomb of Joseph has been stuck inside the biblical town city of Shechem, known in modern day times as Nablus, because they've been trying to erase Jewish identity from that place. And it's illegal for Israeli citizens and the Jewish people to enter that place. It's a locked-off area, and it's been firebombed and vandalized and damaged multiple times over the years.
It's not only illegal. If Jews go there, they are under threat. They will almost die or die.
Yeah, they've been shot there. But part of the irony of this, by the way, is that one of the Carlson-esque talking points that I hear from that entire world is, the Muslims believe that Jesus was a prophet and that Joseph was a prophet, because Muslims don't mind being like, yeah, they're all prophets, they're all good, they're all, yeah, that's great, just sweeping it all. But if that was really so, then why would they have destroyed churches in Bethlehem, smearing feces on the wall? Why are churches illegal in Saudi Arabia, despite Tucker Carlson's testimony to the opposite?
Why is Joseph's tomb
desecrated and destroyed? Because it's a sublimation. The same reason they need to build their mosques next to every other faith's places of faith or on top of them is because Akbar means the greatest, and it means, by definition, sublimating and destroying all other faiths.
Except in Hebrew, Akbar means mouse, right?
Oh, that's
just in case.
I never thought of that.
You never heard that?
I never heard of that.
We'll just let our audience take it from there. So, when you hear the term Allahu Akbar, just think of what it means in Hebrew.
What I find fascinating is the ancient war that we're talking about on this city that is still so prevalent today. Like when the Romans came in, that was a Roman garrison. They built and they built.
Well, they renamed it too, to erase the Jewish identity.
You know what's fascinating? I just heard from local the other day that the when they came to rename it, they knew they were intent. They knew what it was. They conquered. You look in the writings. This is fascinating. They conquered what? They conquered Judea. That's what the Romans came to conquer. And then they intentionally came in and like, okay, how can we best not only destroy the place, but give
salt in the wound.
Yeah, let's just finish it for future generations. Let's cause this wound and this and really to defeat them, let's change the name fully, right? And so that's where we get.
No, but what did they change it to?
Nablus.
Salt in the wound.
Which was really
right.
For Shechem here, for Nablus.
Right. Well, one of the reasons they say is because it looked like Naples.
Right.
So if anything, like, why should we have to give it to the Palestinians? Let's give it to Italy.
The Italians.
Right.
The Italians. But also, like, the very name of Palestine. Why did they name Palestine that? To put salt in the wound and say, we're not the Philistines from the Bible, but let's give them the credit. Your old, enemies, adversaries, the Philistines. Let's call it after them. Palestine. Little did they know that the modern-day Palestinians can't pronounce a P. Right, so the name of their own nation and own identity that is this ancient indigenous identity, they can't even say the word.
Just some fun facts for our audience. We'll get back to the podcast in just a second, but guys, I want to tell you something really important. If you want to come to the land of Israel with the Israel Guys this year, we have a number of trips to Israel open, some volunteer focused, some focused on experiencing the heartland. But my team has told me a whole bunch of these trips are filling up really, really fast. And if you want to come in 2026, you got to register very soon. I'm going to tell you about 2 of these trips. These are family friendly. They're inexpensive to come on. We call it the grape harvest because you get to come in the fall and help harvest the grapes from the vineyards in Judea and Samaria. It's our team's favorite time of the year. It's very exciting. And for the first time ever, one of these trips is you can come and celebrate the Feast of Tabernacles, Sukkot. We've never done a 2-week trip to Israel before where we allow people to come, volunteer, experience the land of Israel, and celebrate the fall feasts. That trip is September 23rd through October 6th. And guys, I heard that it is almost full. So if you want to get in on it, you got to do it fast. The other trip is August 11th through 24th. That's also a 2-week trip. You can get in on either one of those trips. Go to serveisrael.com or click the link in the description below. Love to see you this year in the land of Israel. Back to the podcast.
I literally was talking to somebody this week, and it's so fascinating because the battle against Israel is so sinister and so they not only want to kill all the Jews, they also want to erase any Jewish history. They want to erase the fact that Joseph's bones were brought to Shechem, not to Neapolis. That then the modern people that came to move here couldn't say Neapolis because they can't say the letter P. Then they said Nablus, and therefore today it's called Nablus, which is just fascinating. And even more on this point, because I think it actually goes into where we are today. When 1967 or 1948, when the partition plan and all this, and Judea and Samaria here was part of Jordan, and they were trying to figure out where the boundaries. Do you know when they were writing all that out, what they called the area? They called it Judea and Samaria. Back then. It wasn't until 1967 when the Arabs had formulated a plan on how to rename, just like the former enemies of Israel renamed in order to delegitimize and disconnect the story from ancient Israel. And that's literally what I think we're on right now to pull this full circle, is that we're at a moment now where the same thing, the Oslo Accords, it followed that same trend of trying to, the Oslo Accords in the West Bank and renaming things and making it sound like there's no Jewish connection in a Palestinian state. I think what we have coming upon us now, even with Gaza and the whole situation there, is potentially, if it's not kept on the rails and kept biblical and kept Jewish, we have a similar story unfolding before us. If Jared Kushner and Witkoff get their way over in Gaza, well, we just are going to create that same Roman anti-Israel continuation war that not only defeats Jewish people, but defeats the Jewish connection to the place.
I don't want to move on to another subject yet. I want to keep talking about the Shechem issue.
Our audience
prayers.
is also sitting on the edge of their seat because we haven't told them. I told them something happened.
You haven't even said what happened. Okay, so you tell
Nobody even knows what happened
because
yet.
What happened, I think, is a key. It's a turning point. You don't always know what the turning points are until you look back, and the days that we're in right now are a new chapter in the Bible of redemption, which I think on some level is actually being written right now, and we get to decide what role we play. I think it's going to be a chapter there, and so also, you go ahead.
Well, this also follows something else very significant that happened on the Temple Mount last week. But first, so over the years, the only way to go visit Joseph's tomb was in the middle of the night, once a month, under heavy IDF escort, which we've done several times. And when you go in an armored bus, and you have like dozens or hundreds of IDF soldiers protecting you, and there's fires and riots all around in the streets. They have to shut down the whole city.
Yeah, we've been there for it.
And you go there and they let you in for like 5 minutes and then they herd you back out. It's very it's a military operation. But that was the only way to do it. It's 1:00 in the morning. We've done that a few times. We went in on our own because we made a video on the channel. You guys can watch it about Shechem.
Why did you feel confident to do that?
We weren't so well known back then. And we had some locals that helped get us in. But we tried to go to Joseph's tomb, which was a little sketchy because we almost gave ourselves away for sure. But they looked at us and we just walked and said, "Hey, we're Americans, we're Christians, we want to visit Joseph's tomb." And they're like, "Nope, sorry, you can't visit." So even for non-Jews, non-Israelis like us pretending to be American Christian tourists, inaccessible. So that's the way it's been for years and years and years.
Luke,
until
can I tell
this
you
morning.
A really funny thing?
People are still waiting.
Still on this. But while we were in Shechem and Nablus there, the Arab area, and we were going around kind of disguised, trying to look like tourists, which we didn't do a very good job of because the local security, we were almost arrested once. And then later on, because they thought we might be Jewish. Isn't that crazy? And then later on in the streets, this PA officer comes up, like top-notch PA officer. and he's suspicious that we are Mossad agents.
Well, that's after UN took a selfie with him.
Yeah, yeah, maybe I did.
Yeah, it kind of like wasn't the most subtle thing to do, probably.
Right. So, but anyway, they got to thinking that we were Mossad agents, which was a really bad thing to be thought you are if you're not.
I don't know if they thought we were Mossad.
No, that's exactly what the guy came in and said. We need to check. These guys don't seem like there's something going on here. Because all the Arabs down there, they're scared to death that Israel's got some operation, and they're always.
I think they have reason to be.
Yeah, because there always is. Anyway, Luke, get to the point. All right, here we go.
Yeah, you know me. I just can't ever get to the point, guys. So this morning, for the first time in 25 years, morning prayers, the Shacharit Jewish morning prayers were prayed at Joseph's tomb for the first time in 25 years. And that, I think, like you're saying, Ari, is a turning point. I'll just read you a couple of reactions. MK, member of Knesset Sukkot, said it's a dramatic step in the beginning of a full return to Joseph's tomb. He said the ability to enter the site and pray in daylight, which is a big thing. They've always had to go in the dark, and which is kind of a representation of like the Jews, we only allow them in the middle, like you got to sneak in. No, they're saying now, full daylight, praying.
Keep in mind, why did the redemption from Egypt happen when it did? Why did the Jews leave in the morning? Right?
Exactly.
So it wouldn't be said that they felt like they had to sneak away from a place of fear. No.
Well, isn't the tradition
that's from a place of confidence, visibility, willingness to be seen.
Isn't the tradition that Pharaoh told Moses to leave in the middle of the night, and he said, no, we're going to leave in full daylight. So everyone knows that we are walking out of Egypt.
Do people understand the insanity that the Jews have to hide in the middle of the night in order to pray in the land of Israel?
Right.
We need
where we have vehicles. The power and the control. We can like that.
It's like there is such an obvious side of good and such an obvious side of evil where we have to hide with armored vehicles in the middle of the night to pray in the land of Israel. It's insane.
Well, yes, more than that, it's against the Oslo Accords. If everybody wants to talk about international law, according to the Oslo Accords, the international law that says Jews are supposed to be allowed to pray at the holy sites, like specifically there at Joseph's tomb.
Yeah.
Right, but the problem that we have is that we're even thinking to, God forbid, quote the Oslo Accords, as if there's any relevance to this document written by a bunch of cosmopolitan, atheist, smug Europeans projecting their skewed, twisted, distorted values on Judea and on Israel. Right? Like,
very true.
So anyway, go ahead. What were you saying?
No, just the fact that if they want to hold that argument, even their sophisticated, schmug, whatever, policies is all just disguise. They're not keeping even that.
But Jeremy said this is light and darkness. I'm not sure it's that simple, because really the only thing standing between us and redemption is not our enemies. Right now, the only thing standing is in our own heads. We have the Temple Mount. We have, like this, we just say, go away, and we're building the temple. What is preventing us from doing that? Our own imaginary impediments, our own issues in our own head. That's all. Well, God has already done his part. He's brought us back. He's given us the land. He's given us all of our weapons and all. That's all from God.
See, I think Shechem is something even deeper, not necessarily deeper than the Temple Mount, but it's very symbolic. Shechem was the place that God promised the land of Israel to Abraham, then to Isaac and to Jacob. Shechem is the place where Joseph was brought back and buried. That was our first real mark in the land. And the question now is, are we, modern state of Israel, the continuation of that promise to Abraham 3,500 years ago? Are we the living word of God that's unfolding right now in our generation? Or is there some sort of disconnect, some sort of replacement, something else that happened? And yes, you can go to the Temple Mount as long as you're just taking pictures like tourists. But no, we're going to pray to the same God in the same place. And that's really what makes the connection. That's why prayer is our ultimate weapon.
Well, Shechem is there's another relevance to Shechem that I think plays out here. Shechem was the first place where the nation of Israel actually fought, right? Where every other time Abraham said, Sarah is my wife. Sarah's my sister. Right? Isaac said, Rebecca is my sister. There's always some sort of political ploy, or Jacob fled from Laban. Never did they actually go and fight. And Shechem was the first place where they saw Dinah was raped, and what did Jacob say? It doesn't say Israel said to his sons, what will the nations do around me? It said Jacob, that sort of exiled mentality, said, what are the nations going to say? And the brother said, are we going to let them treat our sister like a harlot? There was no pragmatism there. There was no calculations. There was righteous indignation and saying, this is truth, and we're going to do what's true without thinking about the consequences. That's in God's hands. And I think that there's a spirit coming from within the nation right now that is very much that. When they brought back the bones of Ron Gavieli, one of the most moving parts of that whole thing was seeing the soldiers that were on that mission. I don't remember, 200, 250. And what did they do when that mission was completed? Could we play the video?
Totally.
What are these soldiers doing? Are they running through the streets with anger and viciousness and cursing? No, they're putting their arms around each other and singing, I believe, ani ma'amin, but with a full faith that the Messiah is coming. And although he may tarry, I will wait. And I will, there's such a birthing happening in the soul of the nation of Israel. And you see it on these undercurrents. It's so easy to get lost in the armadas and Trump and Saudi Arabia and everything that's happening there. And we should get to that. We need to look at that too. But it's important. Part of the thing I think we bring here is sharing this deeper spiritual undercurrent of what's being birthed in the land and how redemption is really unfolding right now.
I was just thinking about exactly what you said. And I was kind of taken back when you first said it. You were like, this is a big moment. And I was like, why is Ari saying this is such a huge moment that Jewish people are going in broad daylight and praying at Joseph's tomb? But then as I started thinking about it, biblically, this and the fact that the Jewish people, we're having like a second Exodus moment we're living in the middle of right now. And if I read the Bible correctly, I know the stories, but I want to ask the Rebbes, if Jewish Aliyah seems to have a massive connection to that place, Shechem, ancient biblical Shechem, because when God tells Abraham to go to the land I will show you, he brings him to Shechem. That's like the destination point for all the early leaders of Israel.
I'm going to just mention real quick too that there's 3 locations in Israel that are bought and recorded with deeds by the Jewish people, and Shechem is one of those, and then Temple Mount and Hebron.
Right. Well, the fact that all the leadership of Israel, early leadership of Abraham, comes to that place, God tells him specifically to come to that place. Isaac never leaves the land. He doesn't have that Aliyah moment, but Jacob does. And Jacob comes, where does he go? Right there. That's the first plot of land he buys. And then, Joseph carries this. He says, don't leave my bones in Egypt. Bring me to Palestine. You didn't stop me. Bring me to the promised land. Bring me back to that land that my father bought, right? And so there's this deep connection to that spiritual covenant. And then when the Exodus finally happens, the Aliyah, the Jewish people, and that big story happens where, the whole world with this is the story we've been telling for thousands of years is that a massive miracle. We just read it through the whole Jewish nation. Jewish people have been reading this story in the Torah portion. And Moses tells Joshua, I can't go into the land, but there's one place you got to go. You're going to go through, and your destination point is Shechem. It's that spot, and that's where the land and the people are going to make covenant to God and the land, and that's where you're going to start. I just find that fascinating, that that's the story, and the fact that right now in the second Exodus moment, somehow, and maybe that's what you're really kind of saying, this is a moment, and we need to be waking up to it. There's something happening where Jews are connecting back to that ancient promise that was given and declared. The connection to the Jewish people to the land of Israel started here.
Yeah, I can't say it better than that. That's why it's so important. One of the great callings of our generation right now is not only to be reading the Bible and the prophets and the writings, the Tanakh, because it's impossible to make sense and to connect the dots of what's happening in the world today and without seeing it through a biblical prism. And Abraham's first step in his Aliyah, the first step of the first Aliyah was Abraham. And so I think we may look back at this moment right now and say, this was the first step of the final unfolding of the final chapter of the final redemption. I think, but what do I know?
Well, it's just interesting that last week Trump said he's considering offering asylum to Jews from England and Canada because of the rise of anti-Semitism. And I don't know if you've been paying attention, but the dollar is so weak now to the shekel.
Oh, I'm definitely paying attention.
If that trend continues, the Jews in America literally will not be able to buy a place here in Israel. Like, there is going to be a turning point where it's not going to be easy to make Aliyah. Right now, they can move here like kings. And that really is the calling of our generation, is to see what's happening in our times and act accordingly.
Okay, Jeremy, just to make it clear, that's not really fair. Not all of them. They cannot make... I just saw some real estate ad in America in New Jersey, and they're like, you could buy this house with this pool and this and this and this for $850,000. I'm like, well, that's not exactly what you can buy in Israel for $850,000, right? You can't live like kings. There is a price to be paid for making Aliyah, but it's nowhere near the gift of the vitality and the purpose and the passion and the joy and the health, the spiritual, physical health of coming back to the land. But there are challenges to it, and we shouldn't like minimize those.
Well, I'll just tell you something that's happening right now. There's a Jewish neighborhood in Toronto, and let's say there's 20 Jews that put their houses on the market. That really affects that neighborhood.
Yeah.
It really becomes difficult to sell your house when there are 20 other houses in the same neighborhood that are looking to make Aliyah. Like, it's not so simple that all of a sudden, if something breaks, the armada happens, Iran, I don't know, there's some sort of black swan event. It may not be so simple. And even if you're saying that, yes, you could buy this much with only $800,000, that may not be $800,000. It may be much less. I'm just saying
less.
Now is the time to move before the time runs out.
What I'm saying is that on my journey, there have been many times where I've had to very much tolerate and consider the idea that I could lose everything. We've put everything on the line numerous times, and I've already worked it through so much that I'm not afraid of it, because I say, let's say, God forbid it happened, I lost all of my money. I'd be able to scrape together enough money to rent a beat-up, leaky caravan on a mountaintop in Judea. Right? And I said to my wife, would you be happy in a beat-up, leaky caravan? And I know I married the right girl, because she said, I would be. I'm like, so would I, because I would rather live in a beat-up, leaky caravan on a mountaintop in Judea, surrounded by jihadists who want to murder me, than in a mansion in Miami or New York or LA, and it's not even particularly close. And that's why I used to be advocating for Aliyah. I used to say, Jews, you need to move to Israel. Don't. Nobody. Don't make Aliyah. Come here on a 1-year pilot trip. And then if you don't like it, go back. And that's fine, because you know what? They're not going to go back. Because once you breathe the air and you live the life here, there's just it's the blue pill or whatever, the red, black pill. I don't remember the color. But you know what I mean.
You know what I find is fascinating is that just, what was it, yesterday or something? There's this car that runs onto the Chabad headquarters in Crown Heights. Did you see that? He's just backing up and he's just ramming into the door on the back of the I mean, this is a really renowned synagogue there in Crown Heights.
It's the headquarters of all of Chabad.
It's like the Vatican of Chabad. Yeah.
And this guy,
by the way, I heard that it was an actual Chabad Jew that was just late for prayers.
It was
copyright
not.
Ari.
Was not. Literally, he's taking his car and just ramming this back door. There's a lot of Jewish people, and there was one when I saw that video. There's one little thing here we're showing it, but there's this. You see on the side when the video finishes, there's this family standing there watching, and it really kind of hit me, because I was like, "This is an attack happening, and there's a family, a Jewish Orthodox, Haredi family, or the Chabad family." Standing next to watching, and it just hit me like there's an attack and a family sitting there watching. What's happening in the hearts and minds of those people right there? And my only real thought was, I hope that they get connection to Israel soon.
Yeah, well, it's a real prayer that I have, that God should really open their eyes and wake up the Jewish people around the world, that, because it's hard to understand. I can't get in their heads, especially God-fearing, Torah-observant Orthodox Jews in America, that are supposed to be historically aware with a biblical perspective, and understand that there's been no place in all of history that Jews have settled down for too long without having to go from place to place. And now, after thousands of years, in an unparalleled, absurd fulfillment of the prophecies of the Bible, there's an ingathering happening of Jews from all around the world, not to Uganda, but to our ancient homeland, surrounded by 23 Arab states and 57 Muslim states and miraculous wars. And they're thinking, oh, but I'm just going to stay in Brooklyn? It's just that's fine. God is not going to be bringing back. That's why it's hard for me to have too much resentment for Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens and whatever, because God is so clearly in my mind shifting their minds and their hearts, hardening their hearts like he did to Pharaoh, because it's time for the Jews to come home. And unfortunately, I quote in every single show, Jeremiah 16:16, where he said, first I will send the fishers to bring my people back, and then the hunters. And so we're facing hunters, Bondi Beach, literally hunting Jews. Jews are being hunted more and more and more, and there's blinders over their eyes.
You know, I had the great honor of actually meeting the rabbi. They had a rabbi yesterday.
Bondi Beach.
Bondi Beach rabbi. Amazing man, like just incredible. But I asked him very pointedly. I said, how do you feel? Because he's like, we have to stay strong. We have to rebuild. We have to, we're, as Jews, like we've had this has been our whole story forever. This is what he says, the biggest attack that ever happened in all of Australian history. This attack, I didn't realize that. And I said, but aren't you concerned that the government is not making the appropriate moves to protect the Jewish community? And his answer was, basically, we're trying to do what we can do.
To protect themselves.
So, and to meet with the government and try to make the government protect them. And I asked him, do you see Aliyah starting to increase because of this? And it wasn't something, it's not he's trying to hold the fort down there for his Jewish community to be strong. But it's just becoming a reality that Jewish people around the world are facing. That is a really hard answer to answer when you are embedded in these nations and these countries that are turning against you, and they're not protecting you. They're not doing what they should to protect the Jewish people in their countries. They should be protecting the Jewish people in their countries, and there's no reason they shouldn't. But the fact is they're not.
Well, and as Ari said, we have 2,000 years of history to go off of that. It's only a matter of time.
Right. But this time it's different. It's not like they have to leave Spain. That's what's so absurd about Donald Trump's offer. I mean, it's a kind-hearted offer, but saying that America should bring in refugees of Jews from England.
And Canada. He says the anti-Semitism is rising so much, they're offering them asylum.
Asylum, right? It's almost like he's working for Nefesh B'Nefesh. I hope he got his $7,000 from the Israeli government for that. But but the fact is, like, asylum, we have Israel. Now, I do believe it's beneath the dignity of the land of Israel for Jews to be fleeing and have to go to the land of Israel, but we'll take what we can get. The land is so yearning for its people to come home that even if it's not in the royal majesty and joy that it should be, the Jews need to come home.
I think the vast majority of Jews that are making Aliyah now are not running away from the United States or running away from England or running away from Australia.
But the numbers are not really significantly going up. There's a vast majority of drip drops from a faucet. It's like drips. It's not anywhere near. What's the amount? Do you know the amount? It's like in the just individual thousands.
Of how many Jews making Aliyah?
I think every year it's
from Western
in 2025, it was the first time that there were more people that had left Israel that had made Aliyah. Like there was actually we were like decreasing our population because I think once the war sort of calmed down and people were able to breathe, that's when the PTSD really hits. That's when we're like, I need a break. And so many people left and the same amount of people sort of came and there was a real imbalance.
Well, that's true, but it wasn't a decrease in the population because those Jews that are staying here, Jews with hearts of faith and fidelity and love of God and love of the land that are willing to risk and to sacrifice and stay here from that place of faith, they're having more children than any country in the Western world, right? It's not in the Western world. I don't want to say Israel's a Western country per se, but what is it when you have kids? It's a show of faith in the future, that there is a future. If you don't think that there's a future, if I wasn't a man of faith, looking at the world we live in right now, right? Like just the between AI and a dystopian nuclear holocaust at like any moment. I don't know why anyone would have kids if you don't have faith in the God of Israel and his word in the Bible.
Trump's armada that's now floating on its way towards Iran is more firepower than has been in the area in a long time. If you don't see that something is unfolding right now beyond AI and dystopia, something is on the horizon that's going to shift things.
Well, I talked to a Jewish guy yesterday that is fairly in the know of things, and he told me it's happening. He said, and we've been talking about
Trump
this for
will
now.
strike Iran.
It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when.
And he said,
does his name start with B and end with N?
No.
Okay.
No, not the guy. No, but someone that's very well knows what's happening.
If Josh talked to Bibi, I think that would be the
yeah. If I did that, I would
of this podcast. We did hear him speak. I heard Bibi.
It wasn't
speak
Bibi I was talking about, but go ahead.
So, but what he said is that this is happening. There's going to be a huge hit, and it's going to be so powerful that I don't know. We all threw our bets down the other day about what would actually happen, but this was his approach: is that he will strike, he will level the Iran and that they won't be able to respond, and Israel's going to be fine because they're going to hit it so hard that it's not going to be able to do anything. And the real problem is after they do this, is how will we see a regime change? Because Iran cannot just be another vassal state of America. The Iranians are not that. They are their own people, and you can't just set up a leader and see him as a proxy of America. That does not work for an ancient people group.
Okay, there's just one thing I want to fill in here because I know there's something you want to say, but I don't want to take it in that direction yet. Just a moment of a background here, right? A background. It's important to understand that Saudi Arabia has said that America will not be able to use their airspace to attack Iran. Right? That's a big shift here. That's a huge shift, right? China has reconciled Saudi Arabia and Iran, bringing them back together from 7 years. I think they haven't been on speaking terms.
I don't know what's psychological warfare and what's not. Who knows what Saudi Arabia is declaring?
But you have to hold on
to
something. This is not a conspiracy. There was an actual summit.
There was a declaration.
It wasn't even it was a summit that China brought together, Saudi Arabian representatives, Iranian representatives. There was a reconciliation, and now Saudi Arabia is allied with Qatar and with Turkey. There are significant shifts of alignments going on.
And much less
that are
aligned
influencing
with
this. So the question is, that thing you just presented is leaving out two very important players here. Mm-hmm. China and Russia. How are they going to respond if America attacks Iran? And I posit that they're going to do something.
You do?
I do.
Because the guy I talked to said he thought that, one, Russia's too weak now. Do they have soldiers left? I mean, they got a couple, but I mean, they've been seriously hit. And China just doesn't, he said.
I'm curious, who do you mean when you say they are going to do something? You mean
the China-Russia axis is going to be involved.
But are you including Saudi Arabia and Qatar in that?
In the axis.
I mean, the truth is, everybody, including myself, has no idea.
I would agree, because I also have no idea.
I am also from many generations of Abramowitz men that speak with great conviction about things they have zero idea about. So that's what's happening here.
Or you just gave away your secret.
No, but at the same time, it's important to let's just take a step back. Last time, Jeremy and I were just speaking about this on the way here. When Israel was sending those final 12, I think it was, F-35 fighter jets to destroy, annihilate the Ayatollah and the entire regime. And Trump said, turn around. Jeremy's like, do you think he regrets that now? I mean, definitely 50,000 innocent, heroic Iranians, their blood is on that decision, right? We could have ended it right there and right then.
You're saying literally 50,000?
Well, that's one of the...
That's the highest number I've ever heard.
30,000, I believe.
Okay. Well, also, Abramowitzes tend to exaggerate in our favor.
I have seen that could be as many as 30.
I've heard, and by the way, you should look. There's credible numbers that go beyond 50,000.
Really?
It's not hard to imagine.
Right, it's not.
I mean, it's a country of 90 million people.
Yeah.
Right? So to quash an uprising of that magnitude, I certainly hope that it's under that. Just because when I'm seeing these videos come out and the carnage and the blood in the streets, every single one of them, it's just a shattered heart, that they're really trying to overthrow this government. And I just feel like the world, not a word from Tucker Carlson, not a word.
Oh, there's a word from Tucker Carlson. It just doesn't have anything to do with that.
Right. Oh, you want to play that?
Tucker's sitting in Riyadh talking about how he's a pretty fervent Christian and feels completely comfortable in the seat of Islam. Let me see if I can just find this specific clip.
Wouldn't it be wonderful if people had some ideas about those things you've spoken about, the graciousness, the hospitality, the kindness, before they commented on it from afar? Because I think it's an experience which, once you've had, changes your perception.
I strongly agree with that, and I've taken a lot of abuse in my country for saying things like that out loud. I'm, for whatever it's worth, a pretty fervent Christian, and I feel completely comfortable here in the seat of Islam. Not because, right? I mean, And why is that? And just saying that is a threat somehow to some people who are propagandists and liars. And but it's true, so I'm going to say it.
So just to clarify, there are 0 churches in Saudi Arabia because churches are criminalized there.
And he's saying you need to go and see it before you speak about it. I don't remember him coming to Israel, and yet every other show is bashing Israel.
Has he been to Israel? I wonder.
I don't think so.
I bet he has maybe
definitely not
sure
in recent time. Definitely not since his new term.
But could you play a little bit more of that? Because there's something I want to say what he does there, what he goes on to do there.
Yeah, let's watch this.
And of course, this year, just a year later, it's like, yeah, of course, everyone's in Saudi. Like they're, and I'm glad to see that because it's reality based. I'm not here to promote the Saudi government, of course. I'm American, but I think that Saudi Arabia is a fundamentally real country. It's an ancient country. It's the physical center of one of the largest religions in the world, and it is, of course, a force because of its resources and its diplomacy. So, like, I'm glad to see a real country get treated like a real country, like an actual country, not just a client of some other country. So it's good.
Now, the great irony is that Saudi Arabia was under the Ottoman regime for hundreds of years. It was established in 1932. There's no map before 1932 that says Saudi Arabia because it didn't exist. Right? And it's just this wealthy dynasty that survives with wealth and coercion and religious control, and that's what it is. And so for him to say it's a real country, where at the same time he looks at Israel and Judea, which is as real as any country gets, and says that it's almost like Korach that looks at Moses, right, and says, why do you raise yourself up, arrogant Moses? Where the Bible tells us that he was the most anav mikol adam, the most humble of all men. To call Saudi Arabia, it almost comes with it when there's a lying, sinister duplicity, then it's not just that you call falsehood truth, but you call truth falsehood. And so I see that from so much of the world. And until we actually adopt, like the brothers that went against Shechem, like right now those brave Jews that went and prayed the morning prayer, where we don't engage in PR battles, where we're not quoting the Quran, or we're just saying the very simple truth and living it. Meaning it's not even important what we say anymore. What matters is what we do. Are we acting in a reflection of the truth of our faith in God and the word that he has given us in the Torah? If we do, I think a lot of the hatred against us would dissipate. We only have to deal with all this lies and falsehood until we bring the truth out from within our own hearts.
Are you saying that Saudi Arabia is a colonial British founded state? Like,
yes.
That's what everybody yells about Israel. They're like, oh, it's just a British colonialist.
I remember when I was on BBC with Louis Theroux, and he's like, well, the occupation and the occupy. I'm like, the irony, that's like so rich. I even said this to him. I'm like, you, a white British, the most colonialist imperialist country in the history of the world, saying to the most indigenous people that have ever been indigenous to any land in world history, which is Jews to Judea. And you're calling me, talk about projection. Right? And we just need to be able to live that truth. And enough apologetics and enough gymnastics of trying to, pump more money into public relations. Israel's not doing good public relations. The reason we're not doing well in public relations is because we're trying. No more trying, no more public relations. Just do what we need to do. And who we are will speak much louder than anything we could ever say.
Well, I think you need to articulate what it is that we need to do. Clearly,
live in a leaky caravan, I thought it was.
Maybe leaky caravan.
Declare sovereignty, rebuild the temple.
I'm saying that there needs to be an entire shift in the narrative, in the way that we see ourselves, in the way that the world sees us. And really it is to say what you originally said is just to act in the ways of God that he gave us in the Torah. Live that out in the land as our ancient commands, as a continuation of that word. Living today is the narrative. It is the narrative of the Torah of Israel that we live out in the world. Not what we say and how we position it in the PR that we do and the statements that we put out in the diplomacy. It's just living out the story of the Bible in our lifetime.
We'll get back to the podcast in a second, but I want to remind you guys, you can still get these Temple Mount Mashiach patches. We're talking about the Temple Mount a lot today in the land of Israel and the Mashiach. This is like a unifying symbol. Since October 7th, it's been worn by thousands of IDF soldiers in Israel, been worn by thousands of others. And I think we've had like 10,000 of these patches go out from our online store all over the world. It's become a symbol of standing with the Jewish people, standing with Jerusalem, standing in our shared belief that the Messiah is coming, that the house of prayer will be rebuilt for all nations, just like Isaiah talks about. And if you want to get your hands on one of these patches, they're still available in our store. You can click the link in the description below and get this incredible symbol of unity and standing with God and the Bible and the land of Israel and Jerusalem and the Temple Mount. Get our very viral Mashiach Temple Mount patch on our store today. Click the link in the description below. And now we'll get back to the podcast.
It's fascinating because Luke and I were just at a conference, and Dinesh D'Souza was there, and he said he's such a great speaker, and he outlined this thing. And I don't know if I remember all the little things, but he says Israel checks all the boxes. You have
well, he said there's three ways that
that's right.
Countries, like basically three ways you gain territory, right?
Right.
He said, now I'm going to try.
Well, it's like
you either conquest, or you were there forever, like since the beginning of time, like indigenous, or you purchase it, right?
Yeah,
I think those are the three things. And Israel is the only country, he said, that checks all three of those. Normally, most countries check like one of the boxes, maybe two at the most. Israel's the only one. They bought the land, going all the way back to the prayers being prayed at Joseph's tomb. They bought that land. They bought the Temple Mount. They bought Hebron. They have the deeds to prove it. And Israel has been here for 4,000 years. Abraham started walking the land 4,000 years ago, and it was deeded to them.
And won by war.
And won by conquest. Yeah.
Right. So I just thought that was fascinating that all of this, the talk about Israel and all these things by all these colonialists or whatever, they got their arguments against Israel, but literally their argument just proves against them. If they go this way, well, Israel still proves it this way. If they go with this argument, Israel still wins on this side. On every level, Israel checks all the boxes for Jewish presence being established here. It's just what it is.
What was that like for you guys? You were just at this anti-Semitism conference, and I told you, like, I'm so simple-minded. I just don't like the word anti-Semitism so much. It was created by like a German journalist to whitewash Jew hatred and make it a racial thing, and we like run with it. And it has already been so hijacked by the Anti-Defamation League, the ADL, which is, I think, one of the most embarrassing, worthless organizations working against the best interest of Jews in the world. Is the ADL, and it's like when I hear anti-Semitism, it's like Nebi, victimy.
You know who actually brought this up at the conference was Ambassador Huckabee. He was one of the last speakers, and he said, "Listen, let's stop calling it anti-Semitism." He said, "No, obviously within ourselves at this conference, that's okay." But he said, "Let's call it what it is, and that's Jew hatred." And that's something that I would almost say we coined that term to replace the word anti-Semitism, because exactly what you're saying. It's a very ambiguous term, and it sounds nice, but what is it really? It's Jew hatred, it's Judaism hatred, and it's the land of Israel hatred. That's what I believe. And if you're engaging in those things, then that's like the definition of anti-Semitism, but it's much, much easier to understand, and it's much uglier too, which I think is important. That people know, I'm not a Jew hater. No, I don't hate Israel. I don't hate Judaism. Which is tough for people. Did anyone say
what the source is? What's the cause of that Jew hatred? Did anyone talk about that at the conference?
They didn't invite
what
you,
is that?
Jeremy.
Like, no one's having conferences about, like, I don't know, Buddhist hatred. No one's doing that. There's no conference in the world that's talking about Hindu hatred. No one is just hating on Hindus. Yeah. But there's something about the Jews that there is a sort of hatred toward this people group. And did anyone talk about that?
I think a little bit. Ambassador Huckabee did mention a little bit of it. Like, he went into the depths of, and he's so articulate. He just nails it every time he talks. And so he did speak about that a little bit, the chosenness of the Jewish people, and how the Jewish nation. It's just this is God chose the Jewish people, and like this is a foundation, and all civilizations around the world at one point or another are attacking or trying to delegitimize this Jewish people because of their chosenness. They want to replace, or they want to come against somehow. So it was mentioned. But Jeremy, you should have been
Ari, what do you think?
You should have been speaking.
What do you think?
I just really love him. I love Ambassador Huckabee.
No, not what you think about Ambassador Huckabee. What do you think is the cause? Because it's like intergenerational.
I think it is
when we were rich, they hated us for being rich. When we were poor, it was because we were poor.
Somebody literally said that.
I mean, just like there's it constantly morphs.
Okay, so I'll tell you what the sages of Israel say. This is what I believe at the core.
Okay.
That the hatred of Israel, sin'ah, the hatred against the nation of Israel comes from Sinai, when we got the law from God, and we are coming to the world to say there is a God in the world, and he is the ultimate one that is in control, and submit to his truth and his light, and there will be a beautiful world, but he is the one in control. And they say, no, I want to be in control. Who are you to say that I can't be in control? You're the conscience of the world, right? That's what Hitler said, is like, that's what the Jews are. They don't want to have a conscience. Survival of the fittest. Who are you to tell me what to do? I am my own God. It's like the Pharaoh within all of them. And so I think that's what, but I also think on a deeper level, it is a deep subconscious resentment against the nation of Israel for not being who we are supposed to be. We are supposed to be a source of light and blessing and teaching. And we're not. We're just keeping it to ourselves and our own little world. And we're not going to relate to the world. We're supposed to relate. We're here. We exist in order to serve the world. We are the chosen people. What are we chosen? We're chosen to serve the world, to serve them with teaching, to serve them with blessing. And until we do that, there's this deep, I don't even think they're consciously aware of it. It's a subconscious resentment. That's what Jacob blessed Esau. He said, you will be under your brother unless he does not fulfill his mission, in which you can throw his yoke off of your shoulders because he's not doing what he's supposed to do. It's about us. It's about us. And that's the ultimate empowerment. I'm done with the whole victim-y thing. I'm like allergic to Jewish victimhood. Let's own it. Let's take responsibility and do what we have to do.
Well, I think God has brought us back to the land. He's revived our language. He's created us the strength, the physical strength. And Josh was given two blessings, strength and courage. So strength is the physical strength. Courage is like an internal strength. And so if we only had the strength and the courage, then we would be building a temple in Jerusalem. We would be a blessing to the world. We would align with what people's expectations are. If we are the chosen people, then we be chosen. Bring peace to the world. Bring light to the world. Bring Torah to the world. And until we actually fulfill our task, then the hatred will always come because look at you. You're just confusing the world. You say you're chosen. You say you represent God, but now you're singing over hostages that are being returned. That's your big victory. Israel was celebrating the victory of the war that we brought back, a hostage that was murdered by the Hamas. That's not winning a war. That's bringing back a hostage that was murdered by the Hamas. Actually wipe out evil and bring light, and then the love would be showered upon us. But because we're not fulfilling our task, I think consciously and subconsciously we're hated.
Right.
I want to say something about this topic of Jew hatred because this was a little bit of a debate at the conference we were at. And it's the idea of, I mean, there was a lot of great like influencers and podcasters there. And there was a debate and a conversation about how do we fight anti-Semitism? How do we fight Jew hatred, especially online? And there's two thoughts. There was two thoughts there. One is that nobody wants to sit through an hour of the Jews or even Christian Zionists talking about how God made a covenant with Abraham and quoting scripture. They get bored in 2 seconds. If you're going to win in the fight against, anti-Semitism, you have to fight fire with fire. Whatever attacks they're using, use the same attacks back. You got to make fun of them. You got to call them out. You got to make them angry, make them mad. I get that. I get that argument. And I think it's okay. Like those are tools in the toolbox to use, right? But Ambassador Huckabee really brought it home for myself, and I think a lot of other people as well. He said, if you think that this is not a war against God in the Bible, then you're very disillusioned. And I think that's something really important, and it's something that we literally talk about every week on this podcast, is if you cannot bring it home to the fact that this war, this Jew hatred, war against Israel, what's happening in Iran right now is not a war against God and the Bible and that covenant that God made with Abraham, then we are just very disillusioned. And I think that has to, no matter what tools we use and what we use to fight, how we fight Jew hatred, like that has to be our foundation. That has to be what we always come back to.
Well, I would say, so you said there's two things. One is to fight fire with fire, and if they're attacking you, attack them back. And I would say that there's a short game and a long game. So it could be that in the short game, fighting fire with fire might work. But in the long game, I really think we have to give people a real biblical background. It's really to give people the tools to really build an identity, to build a theology, to build an understanding of the world and the Bible and God and how that all fits. If we don't give them the tools to actually shape their worldview, then the long game will be lost.
Right. I see a lot of Jews.
TikTok battle versus
right, exactly.
I see a lot of Jews in the diaspora, their Facebook profiles are, I stand against anti-Semitism. Have you seen that? It's a big thing. I stand against anti-Semitism. What does that mean? I stand against people who stand against Jews. How many againsts are you going to have in the same sentence? What about for? What do you stand for?
That's more powerful.
And that's more powerful, and it's a deeper question, and it's a question that scares a lot of Jews.
On that exact note, who do you stand for? Luke and I were, there was a friend that was there at this conference we've been speaking about, and she was actually at the AmFest. Oh, yeah. And she went through the crowd after Ben Shapiro spoke, and she went through, because after Ben Shapiro spoke and Tucker Carlson spoke,
well, just to set it up a little bit. So Ben Shapiro spoke at the beginning of AmFest. I think he was the opening speaker, and he got applause and standing ovation. And then he called out Tucker Carlson, who spoke briefly afterwards. So everybody's kind of wondering, like,
right?
You know, obviously AmFest is trying to platform two people and say everybody has freedom of speech. We got to listen to everybody and have a conversation. But everybody's kind of wondering, if you're not there, like, who are people following?
What was the poll? So she literally went through. She said she talked to over 300 people, asked them, Ben Tucker. What
do you guys think? What was
would you
the
expect
response?
the data to come back?
I would expect
they would side with Ben.
20% Ben Shapiro, 80%
20% Ben Shapiro?
Yeah.
No way.
She said 90. She probably talked to 300 people and was 90% with Tucker Carlson.
With Tucker Carlson? Oh, wow.
Which is, I was shocked by that. That literally out of the 300 people that she went and spoke to, she was trying to get a poll, like like she wasn't just trying to go with the people, you know, she was literally trying to get a good feeling of what the thing was. She said 90% Ben.
So I'll tell you why I think
Tucker.
I'll tell you why I think a lot of people are like, Ben was great. Ben really stood up. He, condemned Megyn Kelly. He condemned Tucker Carlson. I don't know.
Who are you for?
What's that?
Who are you for? Who
Tucker
are you against?
Ben,
Talking about who you're against is not as strong as who you're for.
Right. And also the condemnation and let him come with a positive speech of vision. And how about being charitable? How about saying, being generous in his perspective on them? How about blessing them? Actually blessing them. So it doesn't mean you agree with them. It means you could have compassion on them. Because the fact is that American Jews in general, and Ben Shapiro feel scared right now.
That's right.
They feel threatened right now. And that is an exile posture. The fear and the threatening and the reactivity is very diaspora and exile.
Well, I was rooting for
We
Ben.
don't need to have the fear anymore. We could have, you either have one of two emotions, fear or desire. Right? And so it's real. Now that we're back in the land, we can rekindle that desire, let the fear go, and we could recognize that they're not a threat to us. No one is a threat to us. The only threat to us is our own deviation away from the God of Israel and following his word and fearing him.
I can't say that it didn't feel good to hear Ben say that. You know, if Ben Shapiro's listening, I'd be like,
I will say it.
I want to say, nail him. Go. Because it feels great. But I can see what you're saying. I mean, at some point, I feel like
I feel less threatened by Candace Owens now that she doesn't know at what temperature water melts, too. I feel like her threat level went down, for sure.
I don't know.
The ice is not melting at 30 degrees. What's going on? That was just hilarious.
This isn't about intellectual, logical, rational things. It's not like, Candace has been shredded, so now people aren't going to follow her. It's a deeply, deeply emotional thing. So where your heart is, that is where you find that he or she who you align with.
What I don't understand is that an attack against the Jew is an obvious attack against God. It was a lot clearer when it was coming from Hitler, who was kind of a pagan atheist. But when it's coming from someone who says, I'm fervently Christian, I love the Bible, I believe in that. So like, how does that work? Meaning, how can they be an attack against God and yet still, you have to answer that question because it's coming from your world.
I think that it was actually exactly, and I was thinking about it as Luke was saying earlier, it's attack against God in the Bible.
Right, so what is that?
Well, a lot of people can unite against that because it's who defines what God in the Bible is. Is it the God of Israel, and is it the Bible, the word of the prophets of Israel? Well, there's a whole group of people out there that can actually separate God in the Bible for these anti-Semites, these Jew haters, is actually different God, different Bible than what we're actually talking to around this table.
Do you want to play that crazy piece?
That crazy. I would almost hate to even play that. It was so vile, but it's what I'm thinking of right now. He literally believes that standing up for God in the Bible, 100%. He's got his, sword ready to fight for this.
Joel Webbin, if you guys have seen this clip
Absolutely
on X.
vile.
I don't know that we need to play it. I'm told he's very fringe. He's like a white supremacist, Justin was saying, I think.
Well,
hopefully he does not represent. But what bothers me is just these clips that they get millions of views. And so I'm just like, who are the people listening to this?
But I'll just give a
Too late,
summation. Oh, you already played it?
No, I said his name.
Oh, okay.
It's okay. I won't repeat it.
No, but the summation of what he said was he started off by saying
who he is.
Jews shouldn't quote Christian scriptures. And then he went on to say that we reject Moses
everything.
and Jacob and
David
and like all of our...
Which he said that to say you're not the real Jews.
Right.
You've been replaced by the people who actually believe in those prophets.
Right,
like
which is
it's a replacement
like
theology.
Absolutely and totally
Right,
absurd
far-fetched.
to say that. But his first sentence... There was something to that. Sometimes I hear Jews quoting Christian scriptures to prove something. To say, even Christians, according to you, in the book of Matthew, it says, I have not come to replace the law. You should actually fulfill the words of the Torah of the Bible or whatever. But for you to say that, that's one thing. But for me, as a Jew who doesn't live and hold by the New Testament as my Bible, what am I doing quoting that? It's a very pragmatic approach. I'm trying to make an argument and persuade people to believe a certain way, so I'll quote their own thing to them. But that's not
sincere.
It's not sincere. It's not honest. And so to me, there is something to his first sentence was enough for me to take pause and be like, there's actually validity to that. The rest of what he said was so insanely, viciously filled with hate and absurdity.
Yeah, well, here's what I want to take it. I want to say an attack on God, but what does that actually mean? What is what is the actual attack? And to me, it is an attack on the living God. Is God alive? Is he moving? All of the prophecies of the Bible are coming to pass in the land of Israel. Is everything that's happening here just a coincidence? Is God not involved in that? Is he not a living God guiding history, prophesying about what will be and then fulfilling his promises? Is God alive? And if you're not, you want to kill him. It's like you want him to be on a shelf. You want him to be on a Bible. Bible literally means book, where Torah is teaching. It's a verb. It's a living word that's alive, that's guiding us today. And so an attack on God is saying it's an attack on the living God. It's like, no, let's give the authority to some pope somewhere in another country in Rome. Let him decide. He's the representative nowadays. And it's like, no, there's a living word that's alive right now. And I think that's the real battle. Is the Bible alive today? Are the Jews living out that destiny foretold in the Bible? And if you align with them, then you're aligning with the living God of Israel.
Well, it's the reason the Jewish people were chosen to start with, was to bring the light of the world, to spread the light of God throughout the world. And people, I believe that it's more than just saying it's a fight against God in the Bible. We needed to clarify a little bit. Just like anti-Semitism, we need to, it's Jew hatred. Well, it's not just a fight against God in the Bible and God in the Bible is open for discussion. No, literally boil that down. It's a fight against the Jewish people who represent the God of Israel and the Bible of Israel. I think those are two very, let's hone
synonymous. They
into
go
what
hand
the
in
battle
hand,
really is. You see someone punch a Jew, it's an obvious connection. They're fighting against.
It always goes back. Jew hatred always
Israel.
goes back to a hatred of the God of Israel.
Right.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think that we do so much talking about it. And I'm like, well, we should actually do it. We should actually teach. And they're like, oh, that's what we're actually doing in the fellowship. Copyright fellowship. Right?
Yeah,
because when I think I'm listening to Tucker, I listen to a show now. I used to listen to Ben Shapiro. I listen to Tucker now, whether he's talking about Israel or not.
So you're part of the 90%. You're like Tucker.
I agree with him sometimes more than Ben Shapiro. No, but his Jew hatred and Israel hatred is actually really quite sophisticated. It really is. You have to really understand what's going on to be able to refute the deep underlying. He was talking on the last show about replacement, how whites in America are being replaced by Somalian and Muslim immigrants, which is not untrue. And he's like, it never works out. There's always these leaders that bring them in. Look what happened to Palestine. It was 80% Arab, and now, he does this conflation.
Twists it right in.
He does this conflation, but I just heard him talking about repentance. And what his description of repentance is not the Jewish understanding, the Torah understanding of what repentance is. And so it's like, if we are not going to come and give the world a deep, not from a place of trying to change anyone, we're not trying to convert anyone to Judaism. That's not our faith. That's not what we do. We just share love and light and blessing and let the cards fall where they may. It could due to whatever, everyone has to follow their own hearts, but we need to actually start getting into the essence of the Bible and the Torah and start teaching it.
Well, the Messianic vision is that the Torah will go forth from Zion and the word of God from Jerusalem. Right. And if the Jews are meant to come back to Zion, who is the Torah going out to? It's literally going out to the world. And so the visions that were given to us in the Bible, they're not just for us to dream up of or hope for that one day they'll come to pass. They're meant to act upon that dream and fulfill it. And so I think that's exactly the purpose of the people of Israel right now in the land of Israel. All eyes are focused on Israel. What message are we delivering? Are we delivering a message of blessing? Are we bringing the Torah from Zion to the nations? And if we're not, then we need to start.
Jeremy, I want to bring this around, and maybe you can tell our audience what happened when the last hostage was brought home from Gaza this week, because there's a connection to the Torah portion, from what I've heard. And for those who don't know, I'm sure everybody knows, Ron Gavieli, one of the first policemen that ran into the fight on October 7th with a broken arm, injured arm, was killed and has been held hostage for the last 2.5 years.
Being very successful in taking out many
terrorists. He personally killed something like 14 terrorists or something like that. But he was brought home. His body was brought home. And Jeremy, can you tell us how is that connected to what happened in the Torah portion?
Well, I'll tell you, that's what makes the Torah a living word. Yeah. It's like, as every believer around the world is reading the same message at the same time. Like, a word is being given to everyone that plugs into it. In the same week that we talk about Moses going and retrieving the bones from Egypt and bringing it into the land of Israel is the time that we literally retrieve the bones of our last hostage and then bring him back into the land for final burial. And it's like the 1 week that everyone is reading about this epic moment in history, such a moment that Moses himself goes down to retrieve the bones. And it's like, couldn't he have outsourced that to someone? But it was a promise that was given and held onto for so long that Moses himself, the leader of this grassroots revolution that was leading a nation out of another nation, went himself to go and gather the bones. And then that same week that we read about the one story of gathering the dead body back into the land is the week that a dead body, the last dead body, there are no more hostages in Gaza now, happened that week. And so it is a transcendent word. It is a divine word because it's speaking to us today.
And I think that's a perfect example of what we were talking about, in that we're not just talking about the God of Israel or the Jewish people. We're talking about the living God and the living word, the living scriptures, and the living land of Israel, and the Jewish people are alive.
And not only the living God, but the living Bible that he gave to us, right? Eitz Chaim hi lamachazikim ba. The Torah is a tree of life for all that hold fast to it, and all that follow its ways are happy, are filled with joy, right? And when you look at Hamas, they look at us and they're like, why do they care about this dead body? They'll go to such lengths. Even Trump said, and I think he said in a way of praise, it's remarkable that we care more about the bodies of our fallen soldiers or the hostages that were killed to bring the bodies back than they do even about their living. It's all expendable to them. They don't value life, and so the dead body even more so is irrelevant to them. Why do we value the body? Number one, there's kavod hamet, there's the honor of the body, but the body was the vessel through which God shone his light into the world through that human being. There was a neshama in that body. There's a sacredness to that body, not because of it's a dead body, but because it once had life. And so it's part of our adherence to life, and it just shows the sharp contrast between us and our love for everything that has to do with life and their worship of death.
Yeah.
Luke, just as we're closing out, I'm just thinking about, we talked about a lot about things, but I love action points. And I think as we go from here, how do we push back against the evils of the world, the Tucker Carlson voices that people are getting confused? They really are. And I think they're just trying to cipher, well, what is it? They're hearing these pastors come up with these crazy things. And somehow in a world where Jews are persecuted and pushed down, replacement theology starts making sense to people, and they're kind of like, well, maybe God did. And look, there's awful things happening, and I see torture, and they get to be convincing themselves of things that are so awful and off base. And I think the way we need to move forward is, and Ari, you just mentioned it earlier, sit with Jewish people, Learn from Jewish people.
Come to the land of Israel.
Join the fellowship, the Land of Israel fellowship. Start getting connected to the Jewish voice of truth that's beginning to rise, pioneering Jewish people that are settling the land, fulfilling that living word, connecting, being the instruments of God on the land. It's a physical reality that just proves God's existence more than anything on the planet. And when it's happening, it's real. Right. And then for those of the nations, to not only learn and put themselves in settings where they meet Jewish people and understand the Jewish heart and the Jewish passion for God and his land.
And also bless, encourage, and comfort.
Yeah.
Okay, because I'll just tell you that when we have Christian groups that come, we just had a Christian group of pastors from all around the world.
Yeah.
They didn't even need to say anything.
That's right.
Just looking at their eyes, looking at their faces, and feeling their love, it made me want to cry.
Mm-hmm.
You know, even I'm not so fragile, you know, but just we're in such a world of darkness that as a nation we're sort of on the defensive. We're always bracing ourselves. And then to have that sort of love and also ask questions.
Right.
Really ask questions and engage from a place of honesty and truth. It is something that is healing, and it is also it's a God thing. Because on our fellowship, when I have the Christians we have Jews, Orthodox Jews, Christians, everybody. But many of the Christians that ask me questions, it makes me think. It brings from me things that I hear coming from me.
Yeah.
That would never come from me without the question that could only come from them and their background.
Yeah.
So they're always saying, "Thank you, you're bringing me closer to God." I'm saying, "Thank you, you're bringing me closer to God."
Yeah. Well, hey, we are all each in our role, and I think I want to invite everyone as well that we're doing some cutting edge projects. Our volunteer teams are doing some incredible stuff
projects
across the land of Israel, specifically in Judea and Samaria. So I think there's an action to be done, not just to hear these crazy voices and like try to respond on our social media pages and just tune it out. Come to Israel. Put your money where your mouth is. Put your boots where your mouth is. Fulfill this.
So Ari and Jeremy,
Israel.
they provide the way to connect with Israel and with the Jewish people weekly on the Land of Israel Fellowship every Sunday, right? And people can join very easily. TheLandofIsrael.com. We'll put the link in the description below. But if you can come to the Land of Israel, then you got to come with one of our programs. If you guys don't know, we host volunteer programs and even tours of Judea and Samaria. And you can
I wish
sign
you guys
up
set up a commission structure
right now,
because I'm an evangelist for your trips.
I can hook you up. I'll work on that for you.
Literally right now we have cowboys,
but I should let people know,
Mennonite, and Spanish folks.
All here serving
the people of Israel.
I hereby commit that all the money we receive for commissions, I will donate right back to you.
People should know we have 9 trips to Israel this year, and a bunch of them are already full.
That's right.
So people are coming. Guys, if you want your spot, you got to check it out.
Volunteer. Now's the time.
We'll put the link in the description below, serveisrael.com. Guys, we got to wrap up. We were wondering if we'd fill an hour today, and we're already over an hour, which is just amazing. So, guys, happy to have you with us. But let's remember the good news that we started with, because even though like the news is always so like the world is ending, Josh was talking about the doomsday clock before we started, and so anti-Israel, attack Iran, or Iran's going to attack Israel. What's happening? Jews are praying for the first time in 25 years at Joseph's tomb.
Yeah.
Last week, Jews are praying on the Temple Mount. They're actually handing written prayers to go up on the Temple Mount. And how many years ago was it that you guys were dragged off and arrested for moving your lips on the Temple Mount? What, like 5 years, 6 years maybe?
I think it was 7 years ago.
I mean, I'm just like, did you imagine then that you could actually take prayers with you on the Temple Mount and pray and sing and prostrate?
As soon as I was arrested, I was like, oh, I'm so happy that this is happening now, because I'll always be able to tell my children and grandchildren when they're already praying there that I helped fight for their ability to pray.
That's right.
And here's where we are. So I think it's just really important to note that, like, no matter how dark the world seems and no matter how much the doomsday clock is ticking down, like amazing things are happening and God is moving. The God of Israel is alive. The Jewish people are alive. The land of Israel is alive. And if we're praying on the Temple Mount at Joseph's tomb, then how soon will the temple be rebuilt?
That's right.
You can tell maybe our children and grandchildren will see it and be a part of it. So guys, as always, stop listening to the lies and propaganda and connect with the truth of what's happening in Israel. We'll be back very soon here at the Israel Guys.